Hello and welcome back to the old school Ironman. Last episode we got up to 95 rune crafting, which allowed us to craft wrath runes, and those wrath runes are going to be super useful this episode and help our prayer experience gains. And because I'm going to be on the RCS spellbook a lot while training Slayer to get that prayer experience, it's going to be a pain to get to my house, which is how I get around the game. I can get around that by using house tabs, but I currently only have 89 of them left, so I'm going to go ahead and make some more. The best way for me to get the soft clay right now to make more house tabs is use my leftover golden nuggets from the 92 mining grind. Each soft clay pack costs 10 golden nuggets and gives me 100 clay. So if I spent it all, I'd have like 1100 soft clay. But I'm going to hold some nuggets back just in case I want to spend them on something else. And 500 tabs should last me quite a while. It's nice to have some AFK time after all that rune crafting. As you may or may not know, completing the Elite Lumbridge Diary is very good. It gives a 6 block slot for Slayer and means I no longer need the Drawman Staff to use Fairy Rings. Now to complete the diary, you need to get the Questscape done. And I've been putting that off for a really long time. But after completing Dragon Slayer 2 and all those low level quests that I never bothered to do, it's all of 2 quests away. So let's get her done. Here's my setup for entry mode Theater of Blood. I have on my best gear that I own. The only change I made is that the Ring of Suffering replaced the Berserker's Ring, and that's because I'm worried about the Nilo room being difficult in solo, but otherwise I'm not too worried. I did complete about 100 Theater of Bloods on Shattered Relics League about a year ago, and those were all done in mostly duo, so I know what I'm doing in there. I just haven't had a non-Leagues TOB experience, nor have I gone in the past year. The Maiden Room was not very similar to the actual fight, as only 1 crab spawns each wave, and it's in the back, so you don't even have to freeze it, as my magic short bow was enough to DPS it down before it reached Maiden. I won't go too far in depth on the entry mode mechanics and the run itself, and instead I'll save that for when I go to the actual boss. Bloat is very similar to the actual fight, but the HP is so low that you don't get to do too much and you're just doing a 2 down every single time. Nilo is the room that I was most worried about clearing solo, as I mentioned earlier, just because of it being wave based and having to attack with all 3 styles and all the switching. But I made it through barely with the pillars having a total of 20% HP left. I just don't like this room even on regular TOB runs. Soda's Egg is a really good boss, but it doesn't have enough mechanics solo, as the whole maze walking is kind of non-existent because you're by yourself, so you can only send the maze messages to yourself. Cleared it out pretty quickly. Now Zarpus. Zarpus was my big chicken with his head cut off running around moment. I thought I remembered how to do the melee walk for this, but I do not. I definitely don't. Poison got spread everywhere and I had to bail out to range, but the boss was killed without me wiping, so that's a good blessing there. And lastly, the final boss, Verzik. I feel pretty good about my Verzik skills from Leagues and was excited to try to get it first try. And then I looked at my inventory, and I had no poison weapon, which meant that the purple crab was going to be the bane of my existence, constantly healing the boss. I was able to DPS to the second half of B2, but trying to push the DPS led to me getting distracted and eventually dying. I think if I had it, I would have got it. I went ahead and grabbed the Dragon Dagger out of the bank and ran back in, and on the very next try, got the Verzik kill. If only I brought it the first time. Loot-wise, not even that bad. Toad Flax or Bruise and some smithing XP. I'll take it. It's just token loot anyway for entry mode. We got 2 quest points and 4 antique lamps. These lamps recently got buffs, so I think it's 20k experience in any combat skill except for prayer. And when I'm dealing with combat XP except for prayer, I think the right option is ranged. Melee and magic are just way too easy to train, and range is definitely what's lacking the most, even though I'm going to get a lot of range from Slayer and Corrupted Gauntlet, but it's just the best. All that remains is Song of the Elves. Time to get that Questscape. I am so happy I have Quest Helper for this light puzzle, and also thank you Jagex for making these mirrors stack on this light puzzle. That's the thing I hated the most about Morning's End Part 2. But now that they're all in one inventory slot, not a big deal. Finally, the 8th seal is done and the light puzzle is complete. I was not ready for this. I didn't bring enough staminas and I was walking around the whole puzzle. Probably took me like 45 minutes to an hour, but it's over. I kind of cheated at the NPCs on the barrier tower defense section of the quest. I have one meleeer attacking the MD, and then I have like a couple more meleeers stacked behind him, and then rangers stacked behind them, and they're all aggroed onto me, but they're pretty much all out of range on me. So they're not able to hit me, and they're not able to path towards getting in range of the barrier. So I can mostly just AFK in this room as long as I don't kill the one meleeer in front of me. Hey! Clever use of game mechanics is the old school RuneScape way. Quest is mostly complete and we're at the final boss. My setup for the fragment of Saren fight, I have Bruise, Restores, Trident, and Ancient, so any failures on my part at this point is just a skill issue and not a stat, gear, or supply issue. This looks kind of tough, so I'll be happy if I get this within 3 attempts as I slowly pick up the fight. I have Blood Blitz in my rune pouch to heal between waves and darts to deal with the fake fragments, but otherwise it's just a max mage setup. Well, I didn't need those 3 attempts. I cleared it on the very first try. I think it's the hardest of all the quest bosses, at least of the fights that I've done recently. Maybe Galvik was a little more like mechanically demanding, but the punishable, unavoidable damage makes it a tough fight. Like, it puts you in a really tough situation when you're 1 HP after getting hit by attack, and there's nothing you can do about it. And it's just a uncomfortable place to be. Well, Galvik, you can kind of, as long as you do everything right, you really don't take that much damage. With the boss dead, the quest is done, and we have all the quests done in the game. There are a lot of rewards for Prif, like Gauntlet, Volcano, and a billion other things, so I'll talk about them as they become relevant in the future, like I'm going to do with Dragon Slayer 2. But for now, the big reward is 40,000 XP in every Prif skill. I think I'll get a Herblore level here too. Yeah, 87 Herblore. That unlocks anti-venoms without boosting. That's all I really get from that level. But 88 and 90, which are coming up soon, will be big unlocks as we get some new potions with boosting, and then I'll also won't need to boost for super combats anymore. It's very fitting that we get the quest point cape from the old man, and then we have to do the emote by him for the diary. Just very quest related, man. Oh, I forgot my cash stack. It's funny because my cash stack is almost too low to be able to buy the cape, and that would have been embarrassing if I had to just like sit here and elk a couple things, but I definitely had it in rune items at least. The final task that we have left is chopping a magic log in the mage training arena. I always forget when I go to chop magic logs just how slow it is. Like, it can take multiple minutes between logs. It's crazy. But you ask and you shall receive. I got the log, the elite diary is done, and it's time to claim the Explorer's Ring 4. I briefly touched on the rewards earlier near the start of the episode, but there's 3 main things I'm looking forward from it. First, the 6-block Slayer task is just great to have. I no longer need the Drummond staff to use fairy rings. It's a huge quality of life. And then the Explorer's Ring can now high alch 30 times a day instead of low alching. This will be really nice for burst tasks, so when I'm doing a Necro Slayer task, I no longer need to bank 5 times every task. The first task of the day, I can do it without banking. It's just gonna make my Slayer life a hell of a lot easier. 98 farming. This level has been a couple weeks to get, but I've just been too lazy to do farm runs consistently, especially while doing rune crafting. I just didn't want to leave, you're in that groove of skilling, and breaking it up for a herb run takes you out of it. I've been gaining about 100k farming XP a day when I actually do the herb runs and the tree run at the end of the day. So if I can keep this up, it could be a couple more weeks till 99. And I do want to get this 99 as the farming cape is an S tier cape perk-wise. It's time to go back to Slayer and Demonic Gorillas. I've put it off long enough. Setup-wise, not much has changed, but I'm operating on 4-way switches. It's easier for me to do my current cast situation, and I'm always a fan of even-numbered switches. And as I don't get any strength bonus from melee leg armor, I opted to just keep ranged armor on for the legs instead of adding in another switch. I also chose to change my ring from Zerkers to Suffering because I felt the plus 20 magic defense was important enough to lose a max hit or two on the melee phase, as it already goes by so quickly and the majority of my time is spent ranging here. I'm also going to try to stay on the normal spellbook for now. Trips are pretty short, so I can just bank the ashes and alch the rune drops that it drops. But if it turns out to be longer trips where I can't bank them all or they just get in the way, I'll swap over to the Arceus book. Kill count wise, I'm at 842 and have 2 ZENYTEs, so I got another 58 kills in me till I can start complaining again. First trip down, and I ended up with 9 kills. Not too shabby, but I did have to eat food to pick up the ashes as the kills were going along, so I think it's actually smart to swap over to the Arceus spellbook and use the Ash Scattering Prayer. I think this should work out to longer trips, and I can just bank the alchable drops now and alch them later. Time for the first cast of Demonic Offering. 585 prayer experience. Oh, it's going to be so much XP by the end of the task. Yes! ZENYTE number 3, let's go! Oh, this game is great. Now, making this ZENYTE is going to be super simple. I already have the 29k Chaos Runes that I need for an Onyx because of Guardians of the Rift, and I already have 94 crafting, so I can make any ZENYTE that I want without training any crafting. I think if I wasn't ready for the ZENYTE, I would probably just park the bus on it, put it in the bank, complete the task without making it, and then go get the crafting levels after the task is over. So this is a nice little benefit I'm getting by pre-preparing myself. I've already decided that I'm going to make the Torture. It's the best in slot melee amulet, and that's because the Tormented Bracelet will see very little use until I start raiding, which I don't think will happen for more than a couple kills until I get 93 Slayer and all the drops from that. Couple minutes later, we have everything we need to make this ZENYTE amulet. The pie is going to boost me plus 4 crafting up to 98 to make the Torture. Can make it here, string it with an amulet, and then go to enchant. Oh, I always forget this. Need the magic potion to get myself up to 93 magic. I got my magic potion. We turned it into an amulet of torture. And you can see its differences to the Fury. It provides plus 2 melee strength and plus 5 in all the melee accuracies. The only downside is that you lose out on all the defensive bonuses. So there may be some pieces of content where I care a lot about the defensive bonuses and I use the Fury. But the Torture is going to be my main amulet all the time. The 2 extra strength bonus is going to be even more important with something like the Arclight, where it multiplies the extra melee strength that the Torture gives with the Arclight's passive. So definitely going to be really good for stuff like Demonics and Cerberus. Woo, 83 range. Seems like the only way I'm getting any range levels nowadays is Slayer tasks with Demonics and Shamans. I'm happy my range level's getting up there. Definitely going to need it for Corrupted Gauntlet in the future. Hey, 89 Slayer. That is a good level, I guess. Okay, let's teleport. I'm about to die while trying to talk and play. No new monsters unlocked, but 1 level closer to the end of Slayer. And getting up to 93. Oh my god. ZENYTE shard number 4. Yes. Oh, I don't know why I scattered those ashes. I'm just so happy. I'm not finishing this task and I am done with Demonic Gorillas. I do not expect to get 2 ZENYTEs that task, but hey, I'll always take some good RNG. I'm done with Black Demons, and that is such a good feeling. It's a very soul-draining task, and the items they dropped are just so good for raids and progressing the account that it feels great to get done. Turns out I got the 4th ZENYTE on exactly 1,000 kills, so 200 below drop rate for all 4. And there's also a light frame and a 5 ballista limbs, but I doubt I'll ever greenlog this Slayer monster, as I don't want to come back here even in max gear. So what exactly does the Tormented Bracelet give us? First off, it's the best in slot Mage Glove slot. It gives plus 5% magic damage, plus 10 magic accuracy, and plus 2 prayer. The magic damage is what we care about most, as it's essentially a 5% increase in magic damage. This does round down though, so most situations is only going to provide 1 max hit, but I can combine it with the Ceridome and Imbued God Cape I have for 7% magic damage total, where in certain scenarios that will now give 2 extra max hits. I alluded to this earlier, but this won't be that useful for Slayer, as for all the burst tasks I want to wear the Bracelet of Slaughter to extend the task, but it will definitely come into play later during non-Slayer magic PVM like raids. While I still have a Black Demon Slayer task, I might as well knock out 12 Skatizo kills to up my Ancient Shard count in the bank. Just something to do before I block it. With Black Demons complete, I'm now moving over to Duradel as my main Slayer Master. I think Neve is the best for raw XP per hour still, but Duradel is going to give me more tasks that drop items I want at larger quantities. Right now, that's Abyssal Demons, Cave Krakens, and Lizardman Shaman. Black Demons are going into the 6th block slot. We just unlocked with the Lumbee Elites. They're just high weight from all the Slayer Masters, and they're just a really bad task now. And then finally, I'm going to unlock the ability for high-level Masters to give Basilisk. This isn't a great task, but I do need to start working on the Basilisk Jaw grind, as it's a 1 in 1,000 drop, and it's something that you can only really grind on task, as it's 1 in 5,000 off task. I won't pay for the extension just yet, because it costs 100 points, and I really don't want to deal with an 8-hour task. Eventually, I will pull Hellhounds off the block list once I get something to replace it with, as it's going to eventually come off for Cerberus, and it's prayer experience now. Yay, 99 strength! It's funny because I've been 20k XP off 99 strength for almost a year now. It was right around the time I took a break from old school and I was saving the 99 strength for a video, and when I came back, I became a turbo skiller. We'll now start training attack and defense with the whip, probably 5 levels at a time like everyone else does, working our way towards max combats. 74 prayer, the demonic offering spell is really paying off. Each kill at Bloodvelds here is worth 75 prayer experience, so a singular Slayer task is like 20k prayer experience. Just gonna add up. Speaking of high prayer experience tasks, we just got Abbey Demons. I think with everything going on right now, this is going to be an S tier task. Each Abyssal Ash normally gives 85 prayer experience if you scatter it, or use the Ash Sanctifier, but while I'm using the spell, it's 255 experience per Ash, plus they also drop Insold Heads, which adds another 40-ish experience per kill. So yeah, Abbey Demons are giving about like 300 experience per kill, and then when I complete the whole task, it's going to be like 50 to 60,000 total prayer experience. I swapped up how I'm doing my burst tasks. Before I would use Ice Burst, but seeing as I spent 60k Chaos Runes on Onyxes this episode, I didn't feel like buying Chaos Runes at the shop, so I just swapped over to Smoke Barrage. It's a couple extra max hits, which will be more Slayer XP per hour, and I may regret this later, but I do have the Death and Blood Runes to burn through right now. 93 magic. This is an extra max hit from the Trident, but I don't think I unlock anything else that's that important. Now that I'm at the 93 band, it might be wise to swap to defensive casting and get my defense level up higher for PVM. Drakes. This is the task I've been waiting for to replace Hellhounds with. It's a pretty high weight task, and I do not care for their uniques. Plus, they do take a lot of supplies to kill. Alrighty, we got a Cave Kraken task. It'll be a long task, but please let's just get the tentacle. Now that we have Carols, the combat achievements are coming in easily. Just completed the 25 kill trip one, and there is another one where we kill all the tentacles first. So we'll just get her done. Task complete, 2.5 hours later for this one. I don't know if I'll grind out the pet once I get the tentacle. It's just so slow, but maybe next task we'll get the unique. Another Dust Battle Staff. I think that's my second time hitting the table, and we get the one that we already have. It's unfortunate, but at least I can say I've hit the table twice now. There is the second whip we've been waiting for. This goes hand in hand with the tentacle, and now unlocks the Abyssal Tentacle once we get it from the Kraken. It's time for defensive casting, and honestly, I probably should have swapped over as soon as I could Magic Potion boost for ZENYTEs at 89 Magic, but I didn't think to do it. This is going to be my main way to train defense going forward, and I may be able to hit 90 defense before I'm done with this Slayer grind. Each damage I do gives 1 defense XP and 1.33 magic XP, which is slightly more than the overall XP I'd gain with regular magic casting, getting 2 magic XP per damage. Okay, Bandos Plate Body, that's huge for the master step that requires it. It's a good hard clue item to get out of the way early. Like, I would hate dropping that master because I don't have a Bandos Plate Body. That would suck. Classic YouTuber fashion. I spend 3 days getting a level and completely forget to get the recorder up in time. But hey, that's the life. If you want me to get the pop-up next time, like and comment down below so I know to do it. But otherwise, 90 Slayer unlocks 2 things. First, its Dark Beasts are now an unlockable Slayer task. The tasks are very quick from Duradel. You get like below 20 of them. Like the drops aren't that great, but it's a 10-minute task that you can AFK with Protect Melee on. Good for banking up points and getting through a bunch of skip tasks. 90 Slayer also gets us to within boost range to kill Hydras, which means I can now go ahead and complete the Karen Elite Diary. Oh, did I forget to mention that I'm going to go to Chambers of Xeric? 2 birds, 1 stone. I need Wild Pies for the +5 Hydra boost to get the kill, and the Desert Elite Diary requires cooking 1 at a clay oven. So 2 birds, 1 stone. For the remaining 13 pies, I'm going to use the Bake Pie spell, just because it's about a 30% burn chance when you're using the clay oven, and with the Bake Pie spell, it's 0%, so I can maximize the amount of pies I get. It did take 2 bites of pie to get the Hydra kill done, but that's probably the only Hydra I'll ever kill on this game. Once I get Hydra tasks with 95 Slayer, I'm going to be sending the boss right away. And once I get all the drops from the boss, I probably won't do Konar Slayer, and we'll go back to like Duradel or something. And all that remains now is 1 elite task, completing a Chambers of Xeric raid. My buddy has max gear, and he can solo himself, so he's offered to carry me through my first KC. I will go more in-depth on Chambers once I get into it and start doing actual KC and strategies, versus being an absolute rags and having my buddy basically do the boss for me. I did die twice during this. Once was during Vanguards, where I was outside of the room, and I thought I couldn't get hit anymore, and I was letting him finish it off, and the Major just yeeted me like a 30. And then once on Ulm, but considering I checked the tick tracker after the raid was done, and it was at 72%, I consider only dying once a great success. Also, I even picked up the Torn Prayer Scroll, which gives us Preserve, the skilling prayer. Editing Waswere here. I goofed and lost the clip for claiming the Karen Elite Diary. I have pretty good file management, so I think I flat out just didn't record it and talked into a non-recording microphone. So pretend like that's what I'm doing instead of the backgrounds chamber clips where I'm not very good at it yet. The buffs that we care about the most are as follows. Unlimited teleports to Mount Karum. This will make Hydra tasks so much easier to do, as most trips will be at maximum 8 kills, meaning I can get right back into the boss quickly instead of having to go through the fairy ring. It's also a best in slot blessing with a total of 2 brave bonus, while every other blessing is 1. The Ash Sanctifier now works at full power, meaning those Hellhound tasks I'll probably switch back to normals and let the Sanctifier do its job, while the Abbey Demon style task will still get the spell. Konar now gives 20 points as a base. Seeing as I want to use her for every 10th task, this is going to help my point income drastically, which means I have more skips for Cerberus and Hydra. And the last big buff we care about is that we no longer need Boots of Stone to avoid the burn damage in the Chrome Slayer dungeon, meaning I can wear whatever my best in slot boots are instead, adding a little bit of DPS. And you can never complain about 50k Herblore experience from the lamp. With a task milestone coming up, let's see the extra points I can get from Konar. That's going to pay off really quickly. This task normally would have given me 90 points, but with the diary done, it's up to 100. And that's only a 10 task milestone. I wonder how many extra points we're going to get from a 50 milestone. But with that task done, it's time to end the episode. We got Quest Point Cape, 2 Elite Diaries, and finished off my ZENYTEs this episode. I know I say it a lot, but this may be the most progress made in a single episode yet. I hope you have a good day, and I'll catch you in the next one.